Sup, y'all? Wanted to step into the groove this week, man. Just covered the news. So it's all chill with you. So yeah, man, like, the president was, like, impeached, man. Like, the House voted on 2 articles for abuse of power, man, and, like, being like, fuck you, Congress, which Congress is like, you can't do that, dude. You're impeached. And then they're like, well, Senate, you kind of suck, so we're not going to send those to you. Okay. Also, like, the president, like, totally ordered the assassination of, like, this guy who was, like, the second in command of Iran, and, like, said, haha, what you gonna do, bitch? We'll kill you all, motherfuckers! So that's where we're at, and, yeah, that was the big news for, like, the week. So, have fun with that one. Let's just turn off the filter, man. Just turn off the damn filter. If we can. Can we? Bam! All right. So, folks, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, how you doing? Been an interesting little while, has it not? Let's do that so I can see if anybody says something. As per with these shows, you know, feel free to chime in. Let me know what you're thinking. I'm going to talk a little bit about the news that we just covered in our straight portion, I guess. I don't know. I'm having fun with it. You know, I got the house to myself this morning for a little bit, so figured we'd do a show and catch up. I messed up the sound on the last one, so if anybody does join and hears this and can't hear this, please tell me, and I'll just like start punching myself in the face. All right, so impeachment. The President of the United States, for the 3rd time in the history of the United States, was impeached by the House of Representatives. It was largely a party line vote with 1 Russian agent voting present. So that's where we stand there. So there's 2 articles of impeachment. The way this works, you basically draft a law that says you're not president anymore. And the reasons why are abuse of power, as he tried to strong-arm one of our allies in order to get dirt on a political opponent, and also withhold military aid in order to do that, which is not something that you're supposed to do, especially for personal favors. The whole point of being elected as a representative in a democracy is that your job is literally to be a representative of the people. And I know it's just words. It's just words on paper, folks, unless we act on it. And when somebody just so blatantly is like, well, you know, I'm just going to do it because I want to, for me, that's really wrong in our system. It's really, really wrong. So we need to not do that and not allow that to happen. So let's see if we can do that and make that not happen anymore. So there's that, and then the other one is what was it? The contempt, or what was it? Not abuse of power and obstruction of Congress was the other one. Because essentially what the administration has said up to this point is we are not going to comply with any of your subpoenas. We are not going to give you any documents, and they haven't. And they haven't helped at all. And this is one of the things that's been a little bit frustrating about the situation, is because, hey, could you guys just give us a couple emails and then we'll sort this thing out exactly? Instead, we've had to get these other people who were aware of these things and saw it and then put together the story. And they did a very good job, I thought, with the hearings to illustrate exactly what had happened over a period of months and how it was so wrong. So a lot of people were a little bit disappointed and would have liked to see more articles of impeachment, considering the generally contempt for law that the president has shown since he's been in office. You know, each of these that you kind of go through, I think there's some pretty easy, quick counter-arguments against them. Stuff like, for at least like Stormy Daniels and, you know, that campaign finance violation, which is a felony. But that one, like, you know, it happened before he was president. So, excuse me. It's hard to impeach someone for something like that, for a campaign finance violation, as president, and certainly for political reasons, politicians are going to be a little bit reluctant to go that route. The one thing that I would have liked to seen was actually an obstruction of justice article of impeachment, and citing the copious episodes of that Robert Mueller detailed in his report. I'm not sure exactly why that didn't make it, and I'm curious to see when hindsight happens, a little bit of the analysis on why the decision was made to not include those as a third article of impeachment. I think it would have added more weight to it to have both obstruction of justice and obstruction of Congress. To say, hey, this happened as well during this thing where he fired the director of the FBI to protect himself, and he's done these push, and he's put his toadies in here, and look at what they're doing. I think that would have been very important to include, because then you have Barr included in that, and then you also have him implicated in the Ukraine scandal as well. So it's one of those things where when you have this level of dysfunction in government, because this is a big deal, guys and girls. Now, one of the things that you need to realize is never in our history has impeachment directly resulted in the removal of a president. We haven't ever removed a president from office using the laws of impeachment. Nixon resigned before they got to him. And Clinton, of course, was like, it had the Senate thing. And as has surfaced, there were people who campaigned, Chuck Schumer is one of them, as House members on their vote to exonerate him, were then elected to the Senate and then exonerated him. So it was actually an election cycle between that. So here, we're in a really interesting dynamic because the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, has decided not to send the articles of impeachment over to the Senate to essentially try them until they get some assurances that they will be tried fairly. And this is a really interesting move, and we're in a very odd spot because of what I'm going to go to next, and that's that the president has very much extremely escalated our conflict with Iran. And I'm going to go through a little bit. I didn't actually get a chance to get the dates on all these, so I blame my producers and writing staff. Guys, you suck! Hey, go fuck yourself! I'm the only one here. I'm trying to do a show. We're live! Hey, guys! Yeah, so anyway, but anyway, the history of this that's led to this event is not, like, insignificant. And there's some of the timeline a little bit. And now I'm speaking, of course, about the assassination last day of the leader of the Quds Force from Iran. And so we had, let's see, so there was, the timeline here includes, and one of the big ones where this started a while back was the destruction of a satellite on a rocket that Iran was going to send up, and what the purpose of that satellite was and the point of the rocket. But if you'll recall, it blew up on the launch pad. Blew up pretty spectacularly and was a huge embarrassment for them. Our president, of course, tweeted about this when it happened. Ha ha ha! What happened? Stupid. Anyway, so. And I think, and I'm not sure, and I needed to look up the timeline on this, and I'll have to verify for future stuff, but right around this time was when we officially declared the military force of Iran a terrorist group. That's what basically gave the legal go-ahead, legal-ish, for the assassination, that he was the leader of a terrorist group, which also happens to be their uniformed armed forces of a state actor. That's one of those weird legal lines where we've essentially already declared war on them, and now we've made an act of war. But this has been going on for a little while because you had the satellite blow up, and then you had the declaration of the terrorist group. Then you had the Saudi oil fields, if you'll recall, being attacked by a drone attack. You've had protests both in Iraq and Iran that have led to hundreds of people being killed in both countries. And that's one of the odd things, and this is where this comes in, and the dynamics of this situation are so weird, because you had a situation where these groups were, in both cases, protesting against the Iranian influence, and then trying to ramp it up this way, in this kind of somewhat ham-hasted, very violent, very unable to walk back kind of thing, where you can't say, oh, well, we meant this, but we were going to do that. And no, this is done. So you had that, then you had the protests, then you had the contractor killed, and mercenary killed. And I try to be good about this, because this is one of the reasons why I'm never going to be on like our mainstream media here in the US, because I have a really hard time calling people who are being paid to go and fight in a war security contractors. The term that has always existed is mercenary, and that's what it's a mercenary force, and this has been a term that's existed for a long time. You can go back in history and call the people that were hired, right, by the Romans, security contractors. No, so anyway, so this started, so then there was the pushback then so they fired back at the militia and killed 25 people, hurt a whole bunch. Then you had the protests coming at the embassy in the U.S., which again, folks, this is a $1 trillion embassy. This is a huge installation, one of the biggest in the world. This is going to be the target of the pushback, and this is why they've told all the Americans to leave Iraq, and why things are going to be, because it's sitting there, and this is the thing that's difficult about a built installation in a foreign country as an occupying force when you're no longer welcome, because one of the things that allows that to exist is the goodwill of the people there, and if that disappears, artillery against a fixed position, it's pretty effective. So I'm concerned about what's going to happen to a lot of our bases in Iraq very, very soon. So then we had the assassination. Then there was a vote today. This is a globe, remember, time cube. And so the Iraq parliament voted to ask the U.S. to leave, to revoke their authority to be in the country. There's a couple caveats about this legislation. As of this morning here, Mountain Time, it hadn't been signed by the president, but he wrote it, so he's going to sign it. And it doesn't include a date, right? It's one of those, we want you to get out of here super fast, we hate you. We're not going to tell you when, though. Because there are factions, and the vote apparently in the Iraqi parliament was 170-0. There's 320-something people in the Iraqi parliament, so it was actually 170 to about 150 abstaining. And the abstainers are what used to be our allies, the Kurds, and the other groups that actually don't want us to leave. So there's a number of interesting factions. One of the things that might be the idea here was the idea that having defeated ISIS with the help of the Kurds and the Iranians, which they did help us defeat the caliphate, now we can burn both those bridges immediately to focus on re-election. And that's the thing that's so disturbing about this, is because remember, this man was just impeached. And that's the thing. The terms here, impeachment is the House vote. And once the House votes and those articles are adopted, you've been impeached. Now, whether or not you're going to be removed from office is up to the Senate. So the president was impeached. And then he launched this attack. There's a lot of people talking about World War III stuff. I don't know that we're going to get that far. I don't know that the Iranians are that desperate that they'll go with just a suicide-ish attack. It's one of those things that's difficult to speculate on because I'm not an expert and I'm not familiar with the capabilities of either sides currently, other than just some general ideas. But there's obviously the straits that are going to be interesting, of Hormuz, which is the waterway through which a lot of the world's oil. This is why the oil prices are spiking, and you're seeing this other stuff. Now, the big thing on this that we don't know is China. And how their response is going to be. And a lot of the China stays out of this, but again, we're almost. And this is one of the things, this is why when I keep talking about North Korea and the South China Sea, remember, North Korea is about to start testing nukes again. They've just decided, I didn't actually have that on here, but they got tired of Trump's bullshit, and now they're going to do whatever they want to do. So in addition to all of this, you very well could have a threat on the other third of the world at the same time. And you have, again... To be very clear, the president is not well mentally. I laugh. I had to do a show because I had to talk about this stuff. This is the whole point of my show, guys. We want to escape. We want to avoid all of this. I don't want to have to talk about A president losing his mind with Button losing an election when the polls start showing him really losing. So, anyway. Shane, you know how I'm feeling, man. I hope you're feeling good. Sorry we haven't gotten to play cards. I haven't gotten to play cards in like a month because of Christmas and all that. But I hope you're feeling well, man. I know I haven't seen you around. Give me a thumbs up if you're still alive. It's good to see you, even virtually. Oh, man. God. Yeah, I mean, this was the whole point of the show, and I'm kind of doing like, this is a bit of a denouement. I'm not going to stop, of course, but this is what I was talking about, right? You have a president who's been impeached. He's losing popularity. He hasn't really gained any supporters, and he's not planning on trying to. Their election strategy is, I mean, I'm familiar with their campaign manager and what they're doing, and if you get their emails, I mean, it's so, anyway. So that was mainly what I was going to talk about this week, the impeachment and the Iranian stuff. You know, what's going to happen next is a good question. It's going to be, what's going to be our response to their response, I think, is actually going to be the big question now. Excuse me. I don't think there's going to be a ground invasion on our part. I think, again, the plan here is just to decimate them. Which actually has, if you'll recall my Roman analogy earlier, it's actually that's actually not an inaccurate term. Decimation is, if you look at the word root, the deci part, the tenth, the decimation was a destruction of a tenth of a group, essentially done to weed out the weak. Which, when you do that in a war, that's what you just did. So that last 9/10 is much stronger than the 10/10 that existed. So decimations are dangerous things that people don't quite understand sometimes, like infinite improbability drives. Yeah, when you make the unlikely extremely unlikely, then you kind of switch things around a little bit. All right, so what else are we going to talk about? So now it's just kind of me wandering. Shane, I'll try and keep you entertained if I can. There is one thing else that's going on, and this goes back to the stuff I was going to talk about a little while back. We're doing okay on time. Keeping things moving. The trade deal. So we had this. I was going to talk about the impeachment vote. And I actually had here, what will Senate do? Will articles go there? And this was from December 18th. And they haven't gone there yet. And the impeachment vote has happened. It was clear that there was enough votes for impeachment fairly early on. And I think once the evidence started to come out, that it was even more clear. So that was not really much of a question. Anyway, so we got this trade deal. The president has announced we have a huge trade deal, phase one, I should say, trade deal. Now this is, again, I've been talking about this for a while. He's going to bring it back to normal, if that. Claim he made the best deal ever in the history of history. And bask in the glow of people going, this is where we were, but now we're 3 years down the road and we don't even have this market. Oh, fake news haters. So that's the dynamic of what's going to play out with the trade deal. That's why the text of it hasn't been released. Apparently there's supposed to be, he's announced some meeting on January 15th with Chinese trade representatives where they're going to sign this deal, this phase one deal. But again, we haven't seen the text of it, which this is just one of those things that I know it's a little bit of the minutia of government, and people are like, oh, it's all deep state, like who cares about the text of trade deals? What? It's like literally that's the deal. Like what is it? What are we signing? What are we agreeing to? What is it? And we haven't seen anything. It's one of those, and this is going to happen now under the shadow of impeachment and war. Yeah, see, and this is part of what's going to be the chaos of 2020. So I said 2020 is going to be, oh yeah, by the way, Happy New Year! Welcome to 2020. 2020 is going to be a year of clarity. We're going to figure some things out this year. It's going to be, by the end of this year, people are going to be like, what is this world that I live in? And we'll be like, hey, welcome to the singularity. We just changed ages. It's different now. Been trying to prepare folks for this for a while. It's going to be a big year. So, I don't know. What's the trade deal? We don't know. Oh, our deficits are now out of control, by the way. trillion a year with full employment and a growing economy. This is the thing that I keep trying to tell people. And it's weird because I'm the left, by the way, whenever anybody tries to discuss things with me places, doesn't care about deficits. I've been talking about this for a while. We have a growing economy, right? It's slowing down, but it's still growing, right? Which means it's getting bigger. And we have full employment, which means that everybody who wants a job generally can find one. Now, they're not good jobs, and we can talk about that too. But generally, those two factors should lead to a deficit that's shrinking. We should be able to pay all our bills, like in that situation. There's no reason why, when you have, you got a job and you got a steady place, and you should be able to pay your bills, and you shouldn't have to increasingly go into larger amounts of further debt just to sustain, and that's what's happening right now. Going back to the earlier show, I wasn't going to talk about all of these at the same time, but you can see how these things can all stack up to a situation where perhaps the most powerful country in the world could be laid low fairly quickly. And that's what, again, trying to avoid. We don't want that. It's one of the things that's scary about this. There's this thing, a theory on the left. It's called MMT, Modern Monetary Theory. It's bad. It's really bad because it's one of those things where, well, if they can do it, we can do it too, kind of ideas about where a lot of the right-wing ideological hope for us, right? They don't have to pay for stuff, right? Tax cuts don't have to pay for themselves. You can spend military. The president is literally on Twitter bragging about spending $2 trillion on new hardware, military hardware, and we've canceled Meals on Wheels in the same budget. So just the money side of it. But so the idea on the right wing was that you could always do this and it would just, it'll take care of itself. We don't have to pay for it per se. But you got to pay for programs and other stuff that you actually spend money on. But tax cuts and things don't cost anything. Oh, thank you, Susan. So yeah, you're too kind. Anyway, sorry. So this MMT is basically people on the left, far-ish left, the far left, I'll say. I think we might actually have a far left in this country now, which is great, because that actually puts things in perspective. You can see how far the right is now, because we actually have some actual leftists. And they're not, insane. They're actually, quote-unquote, attractive and electable, which comes down to one word. But anyway, this doesn't make sense on the left either. When you say, oh, well, we can just spend this money and we don't have to pay for it because we can just print more to pay for it. And that's really a bad idea when you get into the idea that that's how you're going to do it. One of the things that, the numbers still matter. They really, really do matter. The compound interest is a real thing, and it does add up. This is something I'm going to be talking about, I'm sure, for most of the rest of my life if I'm talking about this stuff. But we have to pay our bills, and the fact that we're not right now is really bad. Speaking of which, the Mormon Church is sitting on piles of cash. This was a story that came out a little while back. Essentially, they have this investment fund worth $100 billion, just ridiculous amounts. This is Apple money. They could buy a good portion of Apple or Micro. They're one of the biggest corporations, money-wise, in the world. So, the thing is, it's not, the reason they have all this money is they're preparing for Jesus Christ to come again, which isn't going to happen, by the way. It's not going to happen. It's never going to happen. It's not how things happen. Anyway, so you're going to have this church with tons of money and tons of influence and tons of power run by out-of-touch old white men. So I don't know if you're familiar with how this world works, but that's a big part of what that church is and has become. It's difficult, too, because that amount of money with a decent endowment could pay for these missions. You could do a lot of... because again, I don't know. My family came from this church, and they're still... Actually, all of them are still a part of it, which... it hurts. But they still continue to pay a lot of it into, and you're paying a lot of money into a very, 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 very wealthy organization where your pittance just kind of pays the fees that they pay the money to pay the people to manage the actual money. And that actual money is invested in places that have good returns. Now, whether or not those returns or that money is being morally used, and this is the thing, you're a freaking church, dude, and you have this just big investment fund that's like, hey, whatever gets the best returns. What? That's why this is so, like, this story was one of those that I was like, huh, well, that would explain quite a bit. One of the things, the problems that they're having is that in order to get that they're non-profit. They don't pay taxes, guys, on any of this. And so that's the thing too. They're supposed to have to do good things to get that benefit, but they don't. That's why I'm ranting in my basement. The Dem field has been pared down. Castro's gone now too. My wife was a big fan of Castro. She sent him some money. Full disclosure. I thought he's a little bit rough around the edges still, and a little bit. He's too young. He's got like the baby face. I don't know. He doesn't even have any lines. Sorry. Voting's getting closer. I'm not sure exactly what the countdown is to votes for the Democratic primary. I'm sure you'll hear about it. I'll talk about it. It's not here for Colorado. I don't know. Tease, do you know the date here in Colorado? I don't know. Or Shane, either of you guys? I don't know offhand. Anyway, so that's going on. There's been a bunch of stumbles. Warren's had a couple problems. I think she's corrected because I think she realized that going journeying with Bernie on the Medicare for All was not a good idea. And I think she's realized that going after Pete for getting paid by rich people is not the best idea either, because a lot of Democrats do actually drink wine and like caves. Excuse me. Sorry, guys. I've got problems with gas. But you can laugh. You can just laugh. It's okay. I'm sorry. I shouldn't probably tell you that. It's live, though. Oh, that's one of the things, too. 2020 is going to be the year that live is important. The deep fake stuff, it's just getting started. But even the easy editing and the stuff that you can do cheaply and freely and the crap GIF stuff is getting really good. The real professional fake stuff is going to be really good. And there's going to be a lot of that. So just find some good live media. Of course, I'm going to pimp myself. I'll be talking this whole year. These are the years where I do my thing. I've been talking presidential politics for 20 fucking years now. And usually I get so wrapped up into it, I like quit my actual job and do it. I'm not probably going to do that this time, I hope. But the economy could go to shit. And then I'm like, well, shit. All right, I'll find another job, thanks. It's all good. I'm fine, by the way, at work. Don't worry about that. I like my new place. But it'll be a big year for this stuff. It's going to be an interesting year. It's going to be a year not a lot of minds change. So I just keep that in mind, too. And it's going to be really weird because at some point there's going to be some focus on the undecideds. And it's like, but okay, so still it's you haven't not really sure, huh? Okay, what are you gonna decide that on? I don't even know. There was a NATO summit a little while back. Remember how our president shit all over allies before he started another war? Almost like he's a foreign agent. There was another thing that I was going to talk about a little bit more. There was a kid who died in our custody. He had crossed over the border looking for a better life, right? As the brochures used to say about our country. And he died next to a toilet without getting medical care that he needed. The Border Patrol lied about that. You're going to see, again, I'm just going to tell you, Although we might not. You know, if Donald wins again, a lot of this is going to disappear for 10, 20 years into the history books, and it's not going to come out for a while. If he doesn't, we're going to have some really nasty truths to face in the next couple years about what we've done. And one thing that I want to talk about for cool side, this is going to be finished. Thanks for you guys who stuck with me. I appreciate it. I've been talking for a while. Had a lot of stuff to get out, man. Holy crap. This is again, like I was saying, for those of you who joined a little late, we have an impeached president who's losing his mind, who's starting a war that he doesn't quite understand and is doing for short-term political reasons, much like how he tried to extort our ally, for which he got impeached. He just wants to win. But for him, the win is for him. There's no concept of winning for all of us. Science. So they took a picture of light. And I want to talk about this a little bit because it's really freaking cool. And one of the core things that I talk about in my philosophy and my book and my understanding of the universe and the whole point that drives me. And taking a picture of light, the way they did it was really cool. The way the light looks is really neat. It's kind of this double wave thing. But it actually could act like a particle if you measure it in a certain manner. And that's why, because of the complexity that exists within the energy that they're taking the picture of. And even the way that they did it by trying to just shoot things by a little thing and then measure the distortion. It's very cool. And I loved it. If you look into it, this is literally the exact same kind of method by which I developed the model that I talk about in the book that I'm going to publish this year, I think. I probably shouldn't have said that, but we're pushing on it. We're going to try and get done. 2020, like I said, is going to be a big year, hopefully, for a lot of things. Thanks for everybody who dropped by to the show tonight. Check out the light stuff. Try and contact your senators if you would like to try and do stuff. We do have a pretty lawless president, and he's acting really in a manner that only befits himself, and that's the main thing that's dangerous at this point. Because he'll survive a nuclear war. I don't want to scare you guys. I think we're okay. If anything, if we start to get to the point where I think you need to panic, I will tell you. And we are not there yet. But things are very, very dicey, and the best thing would be to have somebody who is a little bit more sound of mind and control. So I don't want to make you feel safe, but it is what it is, folks. This is the hand we're dealt, right? You don't get the mulligan in life that much, and certainly no London mulligans. Those things are easy. All right, sorry, got a little dirty. Just that was Shane's tidbit. If he stuck around, I think he's still here. It's telling me he's here. But anyway, thanks you guys for dropping by. We'll do another show. When we decide to do another show, we're going to deal with that gas problem in the house. I think it's over there somewhere. But y'all have a great day, and enjoy. Peace out, y'all.